I was running on the road around the golf course. It'd be glad.
Definitely.
Oh, I know.
I know the answer to it.
This is just one good. I mean, this is my personal one. It's not-
Call the meeting to order. Daniel Mountwell will lead us in our pledge and invocation.
Let's pray. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for the blessings of life. Most of all, we thank you for Jesus. And Lord God, as we come to you today, we humbly ask you, Father, that you instill courage and wisdom, Lord God, of the leaders of our city. Help us, Father, Lord, do the business to be pleasing and orderly to your sight. God, we just ask you to continue to bless, pour your blessings upon us, help us live our lives for you. All these things we ask in your most holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Daniel. Roll call. Here. 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 All right, we do have one signed in for comments on the agenda items. Mr. Faruqi.
This get published, so people could look at it.
I believe we published the meeting Monday, maybe, the agenda,
No. This,
yeah, last night.
last night. So you've had all of, how long to look at it, folks?
We have, or
Yeah.
we've had several
3 weeks.
weeks, maybe a month or so.
So this has been available for over a month?
We have reviewed it for a month, yeah.
Okay. So there's been dialogue between yourselves and the city in terms of,
Can't speak for anybody else. I did go meet with finance with my thoughts and concerns, but I don't know if others did or not.
so what were those thoughts and concerns?
I had a lot of questions and got those answered.
Any specifics?
I had a question around one-time pay increase was probably a big one.
Do you concur with that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
COLA, had a question on COLA, and then police pay. I guess, 2 steps we looked at was something I discussed with finance.
Okay, the reason I bring that up, I just looked at, Huntsville Mayor released their budget on 11 September. They conducted a workshop on the 19th, video, we could all look at it for 2 hours and 10 minutes, and then they conducted their vote. This seems like a very rushed process from the citizens of Decatur's perspective.
I would just say it's not much different than we've done in the past, and I guess this will be our 5th budget, and I've had 0 people from District 5 ask me to do it any differently.
Of course not, because no one's ever thought about possibly doing it differently, or would have enough votes to possibly do it differently. The question,
Had 0 complaints, so
have you asked anybody?
I figured they'd let me know.
Yeah, you're out of here. The question I do have, though, is in
I
relation,
was in here.
excuse me,
Keep going.
I didn't hear what you
I said
said.
at least I was in here before out of here.
Okay, that's true. Several things in here, but one I really have a question about, and I had, in terms of accountability and transparency first. I asked some folks in the finance, because when I got this around noon today, I started looking at it. What it's talked about is the lodging tax. Does anybody have any questions about the lodging tax?
We've discussed lodging tax for years. I don't know that we had any specific questions.
Because the lodging tax that's in this budget is only, as it's written, is only a $2 charge per room.
That's room occupancy. That's a fee on a single room night?
Well, no, I asked revenue.
Yeah, we have 2 taxes, or if you want to call them taxes, I guess the $2 fee is a fee, but it's $3 is room occupancy fund. It goes to a separate fund. The actual tax we share with tourism, and it's they take 67-ish%. We get 4.3. Yeah, we get the rest.
Okay,
And
so
we did an additional 3% that goes to the city.
We did, yes, and we also keep Fairfield in just
For debt service.
For debt service.
So how is it that, or do we have the stats? Because last time we did this budget information flow, there was an amount of money that was coming in that was about $300,000 short based on projections. This year, we don't have that database to say whether or not it's trending up or down on usage of the hotels in our area.
I think we'll probably get to that.
Yeah, and me and Mr. Pike had a conversation last week about a lot of caps.
Okay, well, none of that's in here, and so,
Is it there?
Yeah, he'll go over the funds and revenue sources.
yeah, what is in here is the 2%, or excuse me, the $2 per room. What's not in here is the
Included in
percentage.
the revenue budget.
Well, the reason I bring this up is we could look at from a debt servicing perspective and resources for the city. There's a lot of money that could be looked at intellectually and say whether or not we have an upward trend or lower trend in terms of whether or not usage fees are going up or down. Usage rates, I should say, are going up or down. Right now, we don't have any visibility on that at all. So while we're planning on building a lot of things for the city, we don't know whether we need them. We don't know whether they're up, down, or steady line.
And I think we do need to know, obviously, the trends of revenue sources, and I think we'll get to that.
Okay, so you're saying we're going to get to the trends on revenue sources for lodging.
For every revenue source. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Kyle.
All right. Good afternoon, Council. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Kyle DeMeester, and I serve as the Chief Financial Officer for the city. This afternoon, I'll be walking you through the fiscal year 2026 budget. Before we dive in, I'd like to pause and acknowledge the many individuals who played a vital role in preparing this year's document. Our finance liaisons, department heads, Don, the mayor, each of you had a hand in shaping this process. About 3 years ago, we introduced a new method for budget development, and I believe this year has been the smoothest and most productive cycle yet. Thank you all for your collaboration and effort that went into making this possible. To set the stage, let me briefly outline how we arrived at today's proposed budget. In July, Finance began the initial step of building a balanced budget framework for each department. Using a combination of historical data and current trends, we created a baseline. From there, every finance liaison worked closely with their department heads and staff to refine the numbers and incorporate unique needs. The next step involved department head hearings with myself, Don, the mayor. We sat down with every single department, including those overseeing multiple divisions and funds, to examine their requests in detail. Once all the pieces of the puzzle were in place, Don and I put together several options for the mayor to review, ultimately arriving at a balanced, zero-based budget where we proposed revenues match proposed expenditures. From there, the budget was distributed to each of you for review, and I appreciate the questions and feedback I've already received from many of you. Well, some of you, and I look forward to continuing these conversations during today's presentation. As a quick reminder of our budgeting principles, we are working from a zero-based model, meaning that revenues and expenditures must align. The majority of this budget is focused on personnel and operations, with only a handful of recurring capital items included. By design, all future capital requests will come before council individually, and this ensures that those decisions receive dedicated attention rather than being bundled with the city's $101 million budget. Having followed this practice for several years now, it has proven effective in supporting the city's initiatives while maintaining a disciplined reserve position. I will highlight various items as we go through this presentation, but this year's budget process was standard, and an emphasis on efficiency was of highest priority. With limited growth in revenues and priority being to our employees, the need to focus on being an intelligent service priority was taken. As many of you have already noticed, the city has so much to be proud of. Our downtown area is currently boasting $80 million in constructions, thanks to Calhoun Community College, while housing 200 students in their new 60-plus dorm building. We have structural evidence of our world-class recreation facility at Wilson Morgan Park. Millions has been spent on road resurfacing citywide. We have welcomed new retail and industrial expansion from some of our greatest community partners. We have completed a lot in 12 months, and I think the next 12 will serve the same. We will welcome 3 new council people and a new mayor, all eager to make a difference in the near future, and know that we are in a financial position to accommodate. From here, you will have the opportunity to make adjustments, but know any additions will require subtractions or appropriation from the unassigned fund balance. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the presentation. The funds budgeted are as seen here. No new additions. You have your special revenue funds and then the main fund being the general fund. Next. We're proposing a $101.5 million general fund budget. This is an increase of $5.4 million in the general fund from last year. Of the revenue side of this, 1.8 is appropriated from fund balance, and that has to do with the alley designation and some capital needs. The current gap between your revenue expenditures, which gives you some ability to add from your P2 list, is $272,000. Some of the highlights I want to make note of that are important to make note of in this. First of all, our employees. Know that when the mayor and I sit down and craft this budget, the priority we always take is our employees. We know the importance of our people and what we provide. We're a service-based employer, so in order to stay competitive and to retain our employees, we look at pay automatically. With that, we would love to do a COLA like we have in most years, but with some uncertainty as it relates to revenues and continued growth, we felt the best way to at least do something for our employees was a one-time pay. So in there you'll see a $2,000 one-time pay bonus for all non-probationary full-time employees. And this excludes our badged police department personnel. They'll receive a 5% cost of living or 2 steps for all badged police department personnel.
Can I ask one question there?
Yep.
On the 5%, that would not include a merit increase. So everyone potentially, if they get the merit increase, would get 7.5.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what this does too, and I want to highlight that, Rochelle did a great job with doing some market study prior to going to this piece of the budget. And through the study, it was determined that we were adding steps to our merit system. So what that essentially means is if an employee is topped out in this budget, they will have the opportunity, and I want to emphasize the opportunity because it's earned, to earn another step, having the 2 additional steps added to the scale. Okay. Also included in this are rising costs. The RSA rates are now 19.92 and 18.31% for the various tiers of employees. Blue Cross Blue Shield premiums went up 4.5%, and we were able to maintain the employer-employee cost split of 87-13.
Do you either remember what our COLAs were for the last 4 budgets combined?
14.
If I remember correctly. 14%.
It's in the range. It's double digits.
Okay.
We've talked about it.
3, 2.5.
We did a 6, didn't we?
Yeah, it's 14.5. 6, 3, 3, 2.5.
So 14.5.
14.5.
Plus steps. Plus
And I
steps.
know in the past, we've had some conversation about one-time pay increase versus COLA. We've done COLA every year. I just want to make sure it's not going to put us behind. That's in the concern.
That's always the concern.
But I think for most employees, the one-time pay probably could be better than
It
we
will.
might have been able to do as a COLA.
And from a financial position, it doesn't have a tail, so it helps us be able to properly be able to budget year over year.
I think I'm trying to make the point that the 14.5%, I hope, has put us in a pretty good position from where we were when we came in office.
Yes, you just got to be, the next administration's got to be careful to not get that kid behind.
Which is why we had to take such drastic steps to catch up.
I mean, because if you look at it, with the 14.5% COLAs we've given, and if everybody got their merit increase, it's almost 25% in the last
And that actually is not counting, we did some specific things for PD a couple years ago. We did one for fire, and now we're doing another for PD. So I think that's a caution. I've always cautioned against because of the tail, right? Like
Correct.
there's everything that comes with that, which is RSA, which is insurance, all that.
And we're continuing to absorb those costs for the employees, which I think is important
Yeah,
too.
it's just always going to be a challenge for y'all coming in. So it's I think when I went and met with you about this before, my intention was to do a COLA.
It was.
And I was walking out the door and you said, what word did you use? Are you dead set against a one-time pay increase? And I said no, so we got a one-time pay increase, I guess. But anyway, I just hope we're gonna be competitive. We just gotta keep that up, so.
Again, it's a high priority when we do this, and it's typically Rochelle and I sit down first thing to go over that data to make sure we aren't. And there's some times where I'm with you, maybe not be as favorable, but you have to take emotions and opinions out of it and truly look at the data that says, you need to do this or not. So.
And I'm in no way taking credit for that because I voted against the 6%. So we know.
The study also determined there would be some reclassifying of department head and upper management positions. So some of those what that means is some of those positions were moved into appropriate grades to scale to market. Now, that will impact the current people in those positions, but really with a rather experienced staff that we have, it positions us for the succession. So when it does come time for us to have to replace an employee, specifically a department head, we're in a proper position to be able to recruit and get the best talent to come work in Decatur. Community appropriations, we are roughly at $4 million. Goes to various, and I'll kind of get into some of those folks that get their cuts here later on. And then the capital expenditures, there is a $280,000 refurbishment of 3 flume slides at Point Mallard, which is presented to us as critical to that attraction being open next year. And that has a lot of safety concerns related to, I guess you could get a splinter going down the slide if we don't make a repair. There's a $600,000 annual police fleet cycle that's been standard for 5+ years now. And then the $500,000 annual non-public safety, which we've used towards the enterprise fleet management. We should be receiving our first shipment of vehicles here in the next couple months. So this is for the next administration, but kind of looking at the benefits that program will bring to us, and potentially we'll have some ability in that $500,000 to add other non-public safety vehicle fleets into that group. And then there was an additional $1.5 million in debt service added for future general obligations. We've talked about that here with the expansion of Cook Museum and the parking deck and some other capital needs as it relates. So we're in a position to go borrow money. Okay. Next slide, please. General fund revenues. You'll see a 1.89 revenue increase. Worth noting, the 50% of our revenue budget is based off sales and use tax. So we really key in on sales and use tax when it comes to determining how much we think we'll have to be able to offset with expenditures. We had a little bit of uncertainty with the direction of consumer spending, but doing some research, consumer views information supports families' current and future financial situations. So we're seeing improvement based on what they're reporting as of August. You guys all know the Fed's cut and expected to cut again. While that adversely impacts inflation, it lowers borrowing costs, so people have more purchasing power to buy homes. It potentially can weaken savings returns, so people will spend more than hold on to low yield savings, and then increase wealth confidence. When people feel like they have more money, they tend to spend more money.
It also could impact our interest income.
Correct. Yes. We've actually already had some conversations with our financial institution about that, and that's baked into the budget as well.
One other question real quick, Kyle. We're seeing we saw a 1.89 revenue increase. It's kind of fortunate up here amongst other municipalities, correct?
Yeah, so I can't speak on everyone, but being part of the Big Ten has shown benefits to be able to kind of collab and discuss with the other Big Ten CFOs. And the only other municipality of the 10 that reported positive growth in sales and use tax was Auburn and us. So everyone else is either pretty flat or next to nothing. So we are fortunate. And that takes me back to my statement, and we'll go into it more when we get to the next slide. But I shared this with our bond folks. The way we're set up in Decatur, we are almost bulletproof in the sense of you can have these big bad economic things happening nationwide, and we still seem to do pretty steady because you're not coming to Decatur to buy a Lexus or a Rolex or these big luxury things. What you buy in Decatur is essentials. And whether you have 100 million or 10,000, you have to have food on the table and put gas in your car. And that kind of narrative has kind of held true if you look at the data. So, again, the stats I gave you about consumer spending is uncertain, but we have included a moderate revenue increase with budget. As a whole, I'd like to talk about the region. You know, this region is buzzing, and we are great regional partners. So we're excited about the future of collabing with Madison, Coleman, Athens, Huntsville, as we try to get a second bridge. I think the collaboration is going to be important, but we're also happy to get some of that splash we're going to receive from the Space Command announcement a couple weeks ago. Next slide. Sales and use tax, again, I said it was 50% of our total budget. We're projected to come in around 50.5 million this year with a budget for next year of 51 million. I want to highlight something that's in our financial statements towards the back. If you ever want to do some lazy reading, there's a lot of good stuff in there. But there's a stat table in the back that highlights our top 10 biggest taxpayers. And they make up almost 30% of our sales and use tax, which is significant. But the mix is interesting, and I think it goes back to the comment about being bulletproof. The top 10 is mixed of 3 multi-line retailers, 2 manufacturers, 2 grocery stores, 2 auto dealers, and 1 building material retailer. I deem that as solid diversification. If, you know, like a stock portfolio, having that diversification, all our eggs are not in one basket, to where if an economic thing impacts a specific taxpayer, specifically our Big 10 ones, we're not going to have that affect all 10. It'll impact 2 or 3 or 1. So I wanted to highlight that. Next slide. Business license revenue, Lori's here, so I want to give her props. We're really proud of the staff and what they've done to kind of turn around our license revenue. You'll see a huge uptick in 2025. I think that has a lot to do with some new practices were taking place. We got a good handle on enforcement, and really I think we've become pretty good business partners, where if a business is behind or delinquent, you know, we're not quick to throw the book at them. We're able to try and work out whether it's a pay plan or some specific way for them to catch up. The worst thing we want to do is ever bring a revocation of license to you all because they didn't pay their taxes. So kudos to Lori, and I want to bring up a recent situation. You know, specifically our industry partners, they'll get hit up from third-party companies for potential refunds. And what that does is, you know, we're not budgeting for these refunds, but some of these are significant enough where they do have a big impact. So Lori has started working with some of these recurring people that seem to come a lot, and doing monthly and quarterly check-ins so that we can avoid those third parties coming in and saying, hey, you know, you can collect $30,000. If we have those conversations ahead of time, we're catching it with the taxpayer and us, and those third-party people essentially won't have any business in Decatur. And then lastly, we're excited about City View. We're specifically in the revenue department, and I know building's excited too. This will really streamline a lot of the service we provide to our customers. And with that comes a lot of efficiency and time. So Lori will now not have to worry about hand mailing business licenses. You'll be able to pay and buy your business license online. And what that does is allow her and her staff to be able to focus on some other things. So I'm excited about that specific revenue source there. Next slide. SSUT, here's my plug again. I did run a ratio that I think is very interesting, and I want to make note. So if you look at that 2021 number and take what we received in SSUT and compare it to our total sales and use tax revenue, it was roughly 5.35%. In 2025, it's at 8%. So the importance of us getting this right with some legislature is ginormous as we see our sales and use tax. Now remember, I started this whole budget off with 50% of our budget was sales and use tax. That mix is slowly deteriorating away and away and away. And never ever did we think we would buy cars, beds, even your nanny and papa have a phone and they're buying everything online. This isn't going to stop until we get it right. So projected in 25, we're looking at about $4 million, and we budgeted $4 million in 2026. That revenue has grown 77% in 5 years. Any questions?
Do you have, what should it be called?
So the last study we did with a lot of assumptions, meaning taking national percentages of what people spend online. We had conjured up, since this program had started in 2016, that Decatur lost out on $17 million of sales and use tax. That went to other municipalities throughout the state because of how we have that revenue designed.
Based on population?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the key to that is a lot of those dollars are going to municipalities, mainly county governments that don't have those type of retail stores. They wouldn't be capturing anything.
Some of them don't even have internet service.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. But it's a working process, and we're happy to be part of the Big Ten that's trying to create that change. And it's always good to kind of be involved in those conversations, specifically this one because of how important it is for us in our budget. Okay, I know we talked lodging tax. You remember recently we went from 7% to 10%, just to kind of give a refresher on how that works since it got brought up. The increase of 3% is 100% cities. Of the 7% we still collect, the CVB currently is budgeted to receive 64.3%. I know there's been some discussion as that contract, they had signed a 4-year deal, maybe 5-year, but it expires here in October. And we've had conversation with folks at CVB as well about what that looks like going forward. But currently it's budgeted in the same form or fashion that we have previously. And I think where the conversation goes with is Hunter brought, this is a good example, Hunter brought a new position on board with the sports coordinator, and CVB had a lot of business with the sports coordination, so it's trying to come up with a strategy to where we're not overlapping or duplicating services. And then I'll highlight it here because I think it's been a little bit discussed, but the Airbnb situation, we need to kind of get a stronghold on what we are going to do with that with municipal ordinance. We're seeing, I know I'm in the baseball world, so it's not uncommon for a family, 2 families to rent an Airbnb for a weekend and split the cost, and they all pile in the house and you miss out on the lodging tax. So had some preliminary conversations with our new planning director yesterday, so we're kind of moving forward with trying to come up with a resolution for that issue. But it's important to highlight as we're budgeting relatively flat in that lodging tax. But, okay, next budget. So this one's always Jacob's favorite, where we talk about the mix of personnel, operating, and capital. So you can kind of see the trend there from 24 to 25. We're projecting at about 59% in 25, but go ahead and click to 26. We got that number down to 57%, and we think that, well, we know that There have been additional operating costs, which create the pie to be bigger, so naturally the percentages come down. But we did a really good job this year at looking at our head count and specifically vacant positions and determining the need to physically budget for them or not. I know specifically in PD, we've traditionally been extremely down in our efforts. We're excited for our new chief and hopefully to get that number to 0. But realistically, we know that it has nothing to do with being Decatur PD. This is a national PD thing. We're just not having as much interest for folks that want to be policemen. That's just studies across the country. So in order to properly budget, we had some discussion there to where we're...
If we do a 20% raise,
well, I'm sure they would.
I have 2 comments.
Okay, go ahead.
One is, yes, this is always where I've kind of dug in, and I just want to thank y'all for obviously taking that into consideration. I do think it's always a risk just because the personnel costs can really, with your insurance, the whole package can really outpace our revenues. And it's just a risk that you got to be aware of. But y'all done a great job of managing that with Rochelle, Mayor, Kyle, and all the department heads for just trying to be, figure out ways to be more efficient with the same amount of people, more work or less, as we've had some attrition. So I want to thank you for that. The other is we did cut 10 officers. And the reason we did that was to,
We didn't cut officers, we cut positions.
I
want to be very clear.
Unfilled positions.
Yes, sir.
We had 27 or so, and I just want to be clear. We did that to help us pay for some of these raises, including the police increase. If we were to get to a position, even in the middle of the year, where we had filled every position, we need to bring those back.
Sure.
And figure out a way to do it. I just wanted to say that with you in the room. I hope you get to that point, and we need to bring those positions back if we get to that point. And then if those 10 get filled, we need to add more. So I want to be clear on that. We did that because we haven't been under 10, at least since I've been here. Yeah. But I hope we can do that, but we had to do that to clear up some.
Well, you brought up a good point too. You know, we look at technology and how that can help us with, you know, it's getting really expensive to hire people, not just PD, but an employee, period. I mean, you have fringe benefits.
What's the, like 57%?
I mean, it's like, if you're under the family medical insurance, you're in the 57% range. I mean, you're paying 20% off the hop just for RSA. So we're very careful before we hire somebody, and those conversations stem with every department head on, is it smart to hire a person? Is it smart to hire a consultant? Or is it smart to hire a robot or a piece of technology that can do it for you? Those things are all considered, and I think it's starting to show here with this budget specifically.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that if we got to the point, I won't be here, but I think everybody agrees we need to add those back.
You can come speak on it.
Yeah, I will. Be right there.
Next slide.
I'll just comment on that.
We do this graphic. It's kind of more for an illustration, kind of keep you awake. I would just want to note that 36% of the general fund budget is tied up in public safety. So another key highlight for everyone to make note of is our stress and our priority in public safety. We know that is priority number 1, and I think this budget reflects that. Also think it's a good tool to look at in a sense of what specific departments service they provide, and is there better ways we can be efficient with the overall cost in each budget.
How is it easy to, from there, I didn't see that final, what will education receive in case the school system?
On the next slide.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yeah, so the school fund will receive $31.1 million in 2026, and that stems mainly from their penny they receive from the sales tax that's collected through the city. It's revenue driven, so if our revenues go up, they'll receive more, but that number is in there based on what we project general fund revenues to be.
Do we know where we fall as as far as municipally supporting local school systems? I know in 2016, we were like third in the state.
Funding per capita.
Funding per capita.
I don't have that number. I mean, we've had this conversation.
Yeah,
It's hard to be apples to apples because a lot of cities do different things. There's some that would have the school board come in front of you and say, we need X to do this for this year, and that's how they do it. There's some that do it like us. It's hard to answer that question without, truly getting the people that give a percentage or a penny like we do and say, yeah, this is impacting how many kids or this many schools. I know there are, I know Tuscaloosa off the top of my head, they have earmarks specific for their school. There's collaboration with the county as well, so you have the millage that goes into it. Madison's a high millage town where a majority of their property taxes are going towards their school system. So to say all that, to say it's varies place to place. But they all included in this, this funding will pay for our SROs and $244,000 in appropriations. So of that $4 million, $244K is funded by the schools. And we're specific to those agencies that they're funding are directly impacting students, kids. Okay? Here are the other budgeted funds. You'll have your gas tax up top. Those traditionally pay for road resurfacing. Go through my list so I don't. The Alabama Capital Improvement Trust Fund, that is specific to capital improvements. That money comes from the state. Let's get to my spot here. The Correction Fund, which is driven from fees as it relates to court fees. It can be spent on jail and court costs. The docket fee, similar to what I just described. Drug seizure is specific to mitigating drug operations within the PD. All of these funds I'm describing are special revenue funds, so they have a specific purpose they need to be spent on, is the best way I can describe that. The opioid settlement fund, if you remember, we allocated some money for drug-free community. They were here about a month ago. The personnel board fund, because of the personnel board, they're established as a separate fund, and all that is, they're essentially a department of the city, but we have, from an accounting standpoint, we have to report them separate because of their board. That's appointed by the council. It is just a transfer from the general fund to the personnel board for HR functions. And then lastly, the Capital Improvements Fund, which is Joe Wheeler pilot revenue. Okay, next slide. Almost done. Landfill and recycling. Landfill and recycling is a joint venture between the city of Decatur and Morgan County. We currently have $7 million in capital and capital improvements planned for FY26. That includes the Cell 17 construction, purchase of several motor vehicles, an articulated truck, refuse trucks, and a rubber tire loader truck. Typically when WANA comes for capital needs, there's never low-level capital needs. They're high-end. So, but her operation has been very successful. I know they're taking on more customers, but with that comes a lot of legacy planning, and her and I have had conversations about the rapid pace that we're opening and closing cells. And big picture here is eventually we run out of space at the landfill, and what that looks like when her and I are no longer with the city, but we still have to have a landfill, looking at potentially acquiring some more land to be able to keep that function going. So, you had a question?
You just did.
I answered it? Okay. Oh, and then also to her, and I didn't write this down, but it came to my head, very proud of her efforts that she did with ADEM and the recycling program that we've started that continues to grow. I think she said we were the highest recipient from the kind of pool of grant funds. So it used to be that recycling was a little bit of a I remember when I first started with the city, we would look at the sales of our recycling, and it was, you could make a little money. Running a recycling operation now is a loser, but we understand the importance that our citizens have to want to do that.
We learned that through COVID.
Yes, sir. Okay, next slide. So how does this budget impact the average citizen? So again, public safety, we're providing enhanced training for fire and police departments. I know specifically both chiefs had great ideas for enhanced training we hadn't budget in the past. And then also a lot of like leadership development, really putting an emphasis on our higher staffed employees being able to properly lead. We have fleet replacement on the life cycle, $600K. And then again, Chief Mack had a great idea about implementing a bike unit for our downtown and community events. We also in fire are going to like we always do, upgrade the equipment to properly respond to fires, accidents, and hazardous material incidents.
Do that while it's through cycling to the new replacement.
Yes, so similar to the fleet, we will life cycle a lot of the non-capital equipment that they have high volumes of with how big their staff is. And what that does is instead of having to come up with the cash to buy the whole fleet at one time, we're doing it incrementally over the life of those pieces of equipment.
And speaking of some of the larger pieces, specifically fire engines, what's the lead on those guys?
So the lead,
If we bought two, have they been delivered yet?
They're in process, but what's the lead right now?
4 years, I think is 3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years.
Yes, sir.
And the first one we bought was,
And they're north of $1 million now.
and it was $700K
Yeah.
back in 22, 23. we bought
I think in
it.
16 we bought maybe 3 at one time. I remember a point just 2010 to 20 we bought. I think I remember we bought a bunch at one time. That's how.
A, 3, and 4. Station
1, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
close. Just one of them.
But to do that now, you would need quite an investment.
$6 million.
And it's really difficult in the sense of you're approving a capital expenditure today, and you may now have a completely new administration by the time that piece of equipment comes to town. So. Then lastly, I want to highlight the increased pay in police department. We see the importance in recruiting and retention purposes in that department. I think we're in a really good place. I know for me, I'm not as involved. It doesn't seem to have quite as much buzz around the police department. That's a testament to both chiefs and what he's doing in that department. So,
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that exit interviews have shown time and time again with police department that compensation is not the reason for departure from the city of Topeka. It is things that's going on in the city from the staffs in the department, things of that nature. And I trust that those areas are being improved so we can retain like we should.
Chief, I want to thank you for kind of leading the charge on this one, this budget cycle. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you've got to be competitive with pay. I mean, we're not we've been down a lot of officers the whole time we've been in office. And the one time we got close to fully staffed was when we were second in pay. We got down to about 12, 15 maybe vacancies in police officers, and it was right after we made the pay change.
And what was it?
Yeah.
it's a combination of both. I think leadership is important. I mean, not to take anything away from what you're saying, but the guy leading the ship has a big impact. I mean, I know for a fact he has called certain recruits when they apply just to touch base and to show care. I mean, those things matter and will impact in the future.
And I will also point out that during the time we had a big exit in the last 24 months, we had a lot of those people come back during that time frame. So
Yeah, and that bonus, to highlight that bonus we did, I guess it was 2 years ago, we did the employee incentive bonus where,
This budget.
yeah, it's still in play, and we know our biggest cheerleader are going to be the guys and gals that are working in that department right now.
I'm sorry, the recruitment bonus. That
Yes.
was several.
Yes.
I was thinking never mind, sorry.
Next slide. So city service improvements, so fiscal responsibility, we have technology upgrades. I talked about this in the building revenue and planning department. Again, we just think that's going to create a better customer experience. I know
That goes, Brad left, but that's supposed to go live October 1st,
20th.
20th. I'm about to pull my hair out of this all.
You're going to love it when you buy your business license from the city and you don't have to come in. And then again, always want to highlight enhanced safety training. I know Brad in safety continues to be creative with ways to keep our employees safe, which leads to saving money with the city from workers' comp and such. And then lastly, our investment in our equipment and fleet. We have roughly $1 million in here for garbage and loader trucks for sanitation and street. Daniel does a fantastic job with collabing with me on how many he needs, when he needs them, and keeping that life cycle going. We got in a bad place early on in y'all's administration where, it was taking us 2 weeks to get a loader truck, 2 to 4 weeks to get a loader truck across the city.
4 to 6.
Try like 3 months.
Sure. Y'all were getting emails and phone calls. Hopefully those have subsided, and that has to do with our equipment being on the road, able to pick up.
Well, and another
The garbage.
thing, I want to point this out, and Kyle, thanks to you and Daniel for this, but because of the way we're life cycling the fleet, now we have a newer fleet, we're seeing fuel costs go down, and that we're also seeing repairs and maintenance costs go down due to the newer fleet and Daniel's leadership, and thank you for that.
And I will take no credit. That was all conjured by Daniel. And we kind of took that model that we did in sanitation and applied it to our non-public safety. And we truly believe that the same savings in fuel and repairs and maintenance will be seen in this. We've budgeted for them in this budget for the other vehicles on the road. And then lastly, or
Say lastly again.
I got 3 more slides. City enhancements. We're excited for new recreation centers, our Wilson Morgan Park, the athletic complex on Motors Road, and then the renovation of the old ice complex at Point Mallard. Those things continue to move forward. 6th Avenue beautification project, we see the cones out there. They're getting after it now. We have the intersection realignment and traffic signal at Upper River and Highway 67. Our bridge study, we're making some headway on city.
Congress has got to fund themselves for us to see anything.
Well, yes, we're hopeful for that, but I think we're moving in the right direction from all the conversations and emails I've seen to get that last study paid for.
Once they're funded.
Yes. City Harbor development, excited about some golf course improvements since Hunter's come on, looking at some integration or irrigation construction. We're hearing a lot of people excited for the course kind of getting rejuvenated a little bit, and that's a testament to Hunter's.
Instead of complaints, I'm getting thank you notes.
Yeah. So, and we don't want to stop with where we're at. We want to continue to move forward and make that investment for the golfers. And then Point Mallard, we highlighted on the repairs to the attractions. That's important for that water park for the few months it's open, to be able to have the attractions open while we're open. And then preliminary engineering in the design phase of our 5-story parking deck, which comes with the new guests we'll see at the Cooks Museum now being the North Alabama STEM Center. Next slide. Community commitment, again, $4 million to our nonprofits within the city, $1.2 million for the CVB. They promote tourism and market the city to the general public. You'll see over $500,000 investment to the Decatur Public Library. That's in addition to what we do for the building. And then $500,000 to the Best and Brightest. That's probably our direct ROI. That program just keeps showing the benefits of bringing great people to our city who are making an impact, whether they're a coach or a small business owner. These people are assets, and that investment is shown to be very fruitful. And then that last slide, I won't go through them all, but it's a list of all of them that receive an appropriation from us. As it relates to appropriation, those contracts will follow here in the month of October. So if there, again, these budgeted items are placeholders. If there are any discussion or changes that need to be made, we can do so at that contract phase as well. And that is all I have. I know I've probably talked too much, but questions?
It's probably in here, but what is your projection for 2025 actual general fund revenue?
9, we just looked at it.
1.89% increase.
I think it was 98.
94 for 2024 actual.
No, I think it was 96. I can get this data to you
96.8.
if it's,
It's in the.
Oh, I got
It's
you.
in the.
Yeah.
it's on that,
94.
you're looking in the right spot, Jacob.
Projected 97.
97,841, and then 2024 was 96,887.
Yeah.
Yep. You were on the right page.
Yeah. Okay. Any concerns on revenue, or did that surprise you a little bit?
You know, I guess hearing from my colleagues, kind of, I guess it's not a concern, but just overall being conservative. We may be on a little higher end compared to them, but I think, you know, our actuals are kind of proven where we budgeted, and you know, we've typically come in a lot higher than what we thought. So we had a dollar in there that we came back on after having the conversation with those other parties. So, but overall, I think the revenues are in a good place. We tend to be, you know, y'all laugh about ultra conservative, but it really sets us up in that fund balance setup to be able to do those other things when we do budget the way that we're budgeting.
Remember, in that 101 is also some of that fund balance, that capital.
Yes.
So from a personnel standpoint, if I'm not mistaken, we've hovered around, Michelle, this is probably a question, we've hovered around 500 employees. I mean, has it been that way, and is that kind of where we are today? But we've always budgeted with the anticipation, and you know, sometimes there's attrition, or whether or not we fill it or we don't fill it. And I know that's kind of happened, like the council president said earlier, where we've streamlined some things, which is always good, especially with the personnel cost. So we're still hovering around 500.
Yes.
It just costs more to
It
have.
just costs more. Well, I mean, it's 25% more today than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, RSA is going up,
And RSA.
health's going up, and it just costs more to do different, the professions are not going the other way.
No.
There was a question about the hospitality fund. I assume that's relatively flat. I think we collect.
It is.
Is it 500 or?
I think it's like 550, but it is specifically, there's a 1.4 million in the bank, and we budgeted for $550,000. And the expense that we budget for is specific to an advance to the general fund and the landfill fund when we did the Jack Allen turf. And then there's a small piece of debt which may be retired. One of them are retiring at the end of this year. But it is specifically to be spent on promotion of city tourism. And remember the resolution y'all passed where the previous council passed where the visitors board,
It's a city.
hospitality association has to approve of the spend along with city council.
Yeah. And I would assume, we had some conversation about this, we think stays are maybe up, but maybe rates are a little down, or there's some.
Yeah, I mean, still waiting to get some information, but could
Yeah,
could be
I mean,
slowing a little bit.
Lori and I looked at it when we talked last week. We did really good at the beginning of the year, and then things have kind of crept down to being down. I think we're around $20,000 below what we did last year.
So if rates come down at the hotels per night, rate comes down, but the stays are up, that fund actually would have more.
Correct.
So-
Correct.
I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but you name manufacturing, so 3 of the top producers are manufacturers, and 2 of those are going at 7 days a week, right now to get product out. But the closing and repairs made at Wilson Dam impacted our industry a pretty significant way, to the point of having to shut down some units that could have had an impact as well on some of our revenues.
Yeah.
Piggyback, if they had a better way to get product across the bridge, around the bridge, maybe it would have impacted them.
Yes, sir.
We factor economic conditions and incidents like that when looking at our revenues. And again, we go line by line, looking at every single one. I thought it was funny getting Hunter involved the first time with his 15 to 20 different revenue lines that he has, and truly going through each one with specific intention. But we truly look at the historical data and what we've done as probably the major determining factor in what number we come up with, but also consider a lot of those things that you're talking about as well, to where a previous number could have been skewed because of a situation like you're describing.
All right, any other questions, discussion? All right, we will gather back on Friday morning at 10. So we are adjourned.
Okay. Sorry about the 15-minute convo.